I have to leave.
And what is administration?
What?
That's my.
I gotta go. No, I'm fine.
So again, that big office.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the office, you decided.
No, I was still on the last meeting.
Yeah.
Must be just a
That's
job.
what I said. I need to get out of bed.
I'm not. No problem. And all that. Remove myself to another. I know.
Yeah, it's funny, it's government.
I know you did. I figured you were.
Okay, folks, it's 5:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. And first thing, we'll have a couple of guests here. Can you introduce yourselves and tell us what project you're here for?
Hi, my name is Pete Warren. I'm on the Cortland Fire Commission too. The reason I'm in for this meeting is because of concerns about the Preble short-term rental rules and applications.
Okay. Chris Vietti, resident of Preble, and I'm here for the same reasons.
I'm Michelle Baker. I'm a resident of Preble, and I have the same interest as Cortland.
Just as a note for procedures, we don't take questions from the guests unless someone asks them specifically or something, okay? So that's the way it works here. Other than that, has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Are there any corrections? Follow. Motion seconded? Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's accepted. Other than that.
We have,
Chuck, do we have somebody online?
We have gaps on my book, okay.
do we want to have our guests online introduce themselves? Trevor, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Evening, Planning Board. Trevor Hout, Pastoral Associates, here for the Bridgeview Commons project in the city of Cortland.
And William?
I'm William Block. I'm also here with Trevor for the Bridgeview Commons.
Great. And Audrey?
Yeah, hi, this is Audrey Farwashi from Christopher Community, here representing the Bridgeview Commons.
Okay.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you all. Did you catch those instructions for participants or for attendees?
Yes.
Okay. I have no comments to make as the chair, so I will turn over to you, Trish, to see what comments you have to make to introduce your new people.
Sure. I'm really happy to introduce Morgan Spalding. Just started a little over a month ago as a grant administrator for the county. So Morgan's kind of getting out in the community and getting to know a lot of the different municipalities and the different departments. Just kind of starting to get our feet wet. We thought that this would be a good meeting for her to meet all of you. And then Chris Jankis, you might have noticed his name on the reports. Chris did a lot of the work, thankfully, on these reports. He's a new GIS planner in our office, so he really picked up and did a lot of work. It's been a huge help the last couple of months since we've been down a planner, a land use planner. And along that, we do have a candidate, a possible candidate that may be starting in October. So we'll keep you posted. I mean, as we all know, the housing is the biggest hurdle as of right now. So that's what they're looking at right now. And also an update on the strategic development plan. The consultant just a day and a half ago sent a draft. It's not going to be the draft that's out for public comment, but I would like to send it to this group so that anybody who's interested could take a look at it. The one thing that we did note, so that you can keep it in the back of your mind as you take a look at it, is having a little more of a positive voice throughout the plan. So we'll send that out first, either this evening or tomorrow morning. So feel free to reach out and get in touch with as you start to kind of pick through that.
First, what department do you report into?
Planning.
And planning, okay, good.
Okay, so we can go ahead and start the items.
Yep, I think one other thing, just so everybody's aware, there's been a lot of communication. And I think that that's really important to just keep on your radar. I went to a Central New York Housing Summit up in Syracuse, and as the Micron development progresses, and as not just Micron, but the Tech Hub designation out of Binghamton and out of Southern Tier is also progressing. It is a very, very hot topic. So, just to kind of keep in mind, I think that, it's something to keep in the forefront of our minds, that this is appearing to be a very, very big issue that might not be in the all too distant future. All right.
Do you want to move any of the items around on the agenda for people that are here around the time, or do you want to stay?
Yeah, we could move the short-term rental up. That'd be okay with everybody?
Yep.
Sorry, Lynn. Okay. So on July 25th, we received an application from the town of Preble. This is following us on their moratorium that they did in January 29th. And so this is the short-term rental regulations that they are proposing. And this is in the form of a local law opposed to incorporating it into the full zoning regulations. The law is titled Local Law Enacting a Moratorium, the law is titled An Adoption of Local Law Providing Regulations and Standards for Short-Term Rental Properties. The report outlines the different sections that are included in the, there's 14 sections. I will not read all their names that are included in the local law. But some important items to note for sure is that the definition of a short-term rental property for this use is property is listed as a rental property. It defines short-term rental properties as residential properties that are offered through any form of advertising, such as websites, television, radio, signage, or word of mouth for lease or rent on a transient or short-term basis, which is being defined as less than 30 days. And hotels, motels, boarding houses, bed and breakfasts, and month-to-month rentals are not considered short-term rentals for the purpose of the law. Section 3, establishment and restrictions, defines all prior existing short-term rental properties as non-conforming. And short-term rental properties are not permitted in the residential lakeside district, which is the R1L district, unless the property was already in use as a short-term rental prior to the adoption of that local law 1 of year 2024, which was that moratorium in January. And any property owner wishing to operate a short-term rental property must apply for a conditional permit within 90 days of the adoption of this law. Section 4, which covers the required conditional permit for short-term rentals properties, outlines the terms of the short-term rental conditional permit. It also assigns that the conditional permits are to be granted by the code enforcement officer of the town, and that the short-term rental conditional permit is valid for only 2 years and must be renewed within 60 days before the expiration of the permit. The permits are also not transferable between owners, and any owner of a short-term rental property who operated before the establishment of that local law number 1 of 2024 must provide documentation satisfactory to the code enforcement officer of their operations prior to receiving a conditional permit. So section 5 outlines the application requirements. There's a list of items that are included in the report and in the law itself. And the application must also, one thing that's contain the terms of the rental agreement that the owner will use for the property. So there's a lot of information that's listed in there that that the owners need to provide to the code enforcement officer, such as location, smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, house numbers, parking spots, beds, proof of insurance, working septic, and evacuation procedures are all part of this application. Section 6 goes over the rental standards, and that establishes the standards that the short-term property owner will need to maintain for the duration of the conditional permit. They include elements that are described in 5, as well as covering all general building and fire codes for the town of Preble and New York State. Section 6 also limits the maximum number of occupants per bedroom to 2 people. And a single rental property cannot exceed 12 people in total. Septic tanks also must be pumped at least every 4 years. And the section also disallows the launching of boats into Preble Lake that have been launched into other waters previously. Section 7 covers the procedure upon filing the application. Again, it's to be reviewed by the town of Preble code enforcement officer. And once the application's been received, the CEO has 30 days to determine that all short-term rental condition permit requirements have been met. Staff felt that it's unclear if this means that the code enforcement officer will approve, deny the permit, or if they'll just verify that no other material will be needed. So we included a recommendation that the town of Preble clarify the exact determination made by the code enforcement officers within this 30-day window outlined in the section. If the code enforcement officer has reasonable cause to believe that a short-term rental property is not maintained to code, the officer may request entry to the property to inspect the conditions and potentially revoke the conditional permit. Section 9 also outlines the renewal of a conditional permit. Again, requiring that it must be renewed within 60 days prior to the expiration of that current permit. Section 10 covers violations and penalties. And if the code enforcement officer receives a notice of a violation, they have 7 days to investigate it. And if there's a legitimate violation, the code enforcement officer is empowered to suspend the conditional permit, issue a court appearance ticket, or revoke the permit entirely. Section 10B further defines penalties that may come up if a violation is confirmed. And the town board may subject a fine of up to $250 or up to 15 days in prison for offense. And each day that a violation remains in place is considered a separate offense under this law. Section 11 covers the grounds for suspension or revocation of the conditional permit. And suspensions can be lifted if the owner of the rental property rectifies a violation that led to the suspension. And if a code enforcement officer records 2 substantiated grounds for suspension of the conditional permit for the property within a 2-year period, the officer is empowered to revoke the conditional permit. Section 12 covers appeals and hearings. And this indicates that the property owners are entitled to appeal a suspension or revocation of permit, provided that they file the appeal within 60 days of the suspension or revocation occurring. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hear any short-term rental permit appeals within 45 days of the appeal process beginning. Finally, the proposed law adoption is considered a type 1 action under seeker, as it would change allowable uses in a zoning district affecting more than 25 acres. And so the town of Preble should complete a full environmental assessment form to determine if the proposal would result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So the staff recommends adoption of the proposed local law providing regulations and standards for short-term rentals only under the following conditions: that the town of Preble clarify the exact determination made by the code enforcement officer within the 30-day window outlined in section 7B, and compliance with seeker requirements.
They have a motion? Anyone want to make one? Yep. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Okay, for discussion, does anyone have some comment they want to make at this time?
I have a question. How many homes right now in the Preble are could be short-term rentals? Do we know?
Lakefront District.
Is it just the lakefront? I mean, it's not.
We're not given that data with this, but some of the attendees may have a better idea than we do.
Approximately, maybe 10 on the outside.
So
Wait, excuse me, that's not correct. The R1L district is all the houses that live around the lake,
Lake, right.
and that's at least 60 houses.
On
On no, that's on Song
Lake.
Lake, there's also Tully Lake.
Yeah. Second, the question was how many are currently rentals, is that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was my question. I was gonna say 60 houses
So I think that
already.
was the question.
I
How many
apologize.
houses are in the district?
Okay.
And the other, are you going to recuse yourself?
Yes, I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh, that's fine. Are you going to do anything else?
So there's about 10, we're saying?
Okay,
Roughly
10 at the most.
And that's just from what we are on Song Lake. We do not know
Okay.
in terms of the other lakes. So we probably got 6 or.
any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So is this strictly for houses on the lake, or is this houses? So I mean, if someone has a rental that could be for skiing, this is gonna affect them as well, not just.
So this is a process put in place for all the districts and for all short-term rentals throughout the entire town. But this is disallowing any additional short-term rentals in the R1L district. But it is allowing the existing ones only if they come through and do the conditional permit as well, but not allowing any additional ones in the R1L district. But they are allowed in all other districts, only upon this process though.
Okay. Then I do get one other question, if I could. On page 4, it says, because Preble lakes are particularly susceptible to invasion of non-native biological species, launching of boats which are launched in other waters are prohibited. So because Little York Lake is in Preble, so if someone brought their boat to Little York Lake, that maybe going to Oswego, they're prohibited now? Or that's what they're saying they want to do is make it so they can't?
They're saying individuals that stay at the short-term rentals cannot launch their boats
Okay,
if they were in any other water.
okay.
But anybody could come and launch a boat.
Just tell them.
Yeah.
At
the
Edgewater
county
Park.
Right, right.
Edgewater Park. They do have a boat wash station there. And so, yes,
So that this won't make it so other people can't bring their boat into Little York.
it's public access at Little York Lake.
Okay.
They're gonna try to squeeze it down as much as they can.
So if I'm renting on the lake,
Well, one of
I
the
can still put my boat in New York Lake.
At the county launch.
The county line.
Correct.
So there's a boat wash station there, which could.
Mhm.
Right. Right. And I think that was the thought, is that there's not individual boat wash, there's not a boat wash station.
Now, does some in Tully have a public access?
Nobody, I believe, does, but.
Some does not, okay. So you have to be a resident of some to get into the lake.
And
Questions?
A couple of people included, aren't you? Who's the town attorney, Don?
Donna.
Who's the code enforcement? Thank you.
We also have questions on the board.
I just wanted to comment on it. Feels like somebody's really trying to squeeze this thing right down to nothing. I've got Airbnb properties and I have no issue. There's no maintenance problems, there's nothing, they don't destroy stuff, I don't have fires or nothing crazy, no partying. I've had very good luck, we've been doing it for 2 years. Haven't had an issue. People come and they go, the worst thing I had is a lady took a 2-pack of toilet paper, that was a big thing. But, I've been very happy with it and, most of the people who come on vacation are there for short term, 2 days, a week, whatever. They come, they have a good time and go up to Skinhead. It's like the people who are there all summer long have more parties and fun than the people who just rent for the weekend. So I'm just not for it, I'm sorry.
One of my
Questions, Ben?
comment, question, I guess, to think about, one of my concerns with it is that the county is trying to boost tourism. This is kind of against that strategic planning outcome that we've been talking about quite a bit.
I kind of have a comment in this similar vein, because we're also looking at trying to attract people coming to the employee at Micron and executives coming in the area, and we're kind of asking, let's direct them down into Cortland County. So they would have been able to take advantage of a Airbnb in the area.
Make it really,
Any other board member? No comment you want to make?
seems to make it the community rather exclusive.
I don't know. There's some rather strict things in it.
Yeah.
But it's not my town. I'm not living on the lake. There may be problem people have had. I really don't know. I don't know why we pass a law like this, other than the fact they were having issues with some of the residents. I don't really know. Going to prison, it could be rather difficult. So somebody in prison for violations. And I'm not sure if there will be legal challenges over some of the definitions of how you get your permit, when you don't, all that kind of stuff, when you get a violation. But my only thing is, it's a town thing. I don't know if I should really, if they want to try and do it, they have public hearings on it, I believe, before they pass the law.
They had a town board meeting, last week, actually, Chris and Morgan attended the town board meeting. And I believe there's going to be additional public hearing, are there any?
So local laws, I assume they need
Yeah.
a public hearing on it. I really don't know, but I'm not their attorney, but I assume residents for or against will be able to render their opinion at that meeting. I've been in a lot of Airbnbs, I actually like to go to them. I do know people though that live on some of the lakes that have complained about Skinny Lake in particular. They've had residents nearby where they rented out some rather raucous crowds next door to their houses and weren't too happy about it. But so it's probably, it's both ways. I know what you're saying. And, yeah, I'd like to be able to rent a place on the lake myself as an Airbnb. So Yeah, I don't know if the rules are in other places where I do that, so I don't really know.
Skinny Hills are just allowed right open the village.
Yeah, I did one in Wasco recently, it was a great place, and a really nice facility. And we had a good time, for more than 10 people probably in the house. But okay, I'm at 12 versus. And I don't know how they restrict 2 per bedroom, that house, people live in bedroom, in basements on mattresses and air mattresses and stuff like that, so I don't know if that's. Either. But, you know, it should be fine to enforce the person, but I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not in favor of either of it. So, any other comments?
Is there a desire to add a note because to Quinn's point about the county, from a countywide perspective? Or
I kind of feel that's important.
It's not sure. If you really want to offer amendment to their recommendations.
I would at least like them to reconsider not allowing any new ones, I mean, going through a different conditional permit process.
They're not saying they don't allow new ones, they're saying it's a permit process to get them.
No, they're just allowing any new ones in the R1L district.
So is that the main lakefront property?
Yes.
Yeah, so they
All
can't
right,
have,
so what's
am
the,
I misinterpreting it? They can't have any new ones. Like the old ones, they can go through this process and continue, but any new ones, they won't.
so they're not allowed to have them on lakes, basically. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
see
think
your
that's
point.
the.
In the meantime, they want to reissue the permit either.
Right.
Yeah.
Every 2 years.
Depending on the makeup of the board or supervisor or whatever.
So would you like to offer an amendment to the staff recommendation?
Yes, I would, I don't know how to word it.
Well, the county should consider ramifications of countywide, tourism
Strategic development goals.
development.
I think our opinions are, well, basically we give our opinions anyway, but obviously there's an issue somewhere. That's why this is
Correct.
brought up.
Yeah.
So if this is what they want,
That's
then
kind of
so
what I
be
look at.
it. Then so be it. Whether I agree with it or not, it's totally irrelevant. And I mean, me, they're gonna open up a can of worms. I envision lawsuits and what have you, but that's their problem. We've given our recommendations, and to me, that's it.
I just still ask you, if you want to make that recommendation as an amendment to their recommended. Are you making that?
I would like to make that amendment. I think it's contrary enough.
How do you want to word it? Word it as
That the town
prior
consider-
to passing orders, take into consideration
The
the.
effect this may have on countywide strategic development goal related to tourism.
That sounds good. I like that wording. Is there a second to that amendment? Second by Donna. All in favor of that amendment to staff's recommendation? Aye, I'm in favor. Yeah. All right, so
I'd actually like to move to table this to, until we get feedback on their public meetings.
well, I think we have to offer recommendations to their people prior to them having their meetings. You know what I mean? They would like to know what our feelings are. We want to make more comments now to add to our recommendations. We can do that now, but for us to wait for them, I think they're waiting for our input a lot of times. They would like to see our advice to staff. And that's why we serve this function to make recommendations to local boards. They can blow us off if they want to. And they do that, when boards do. But it isn't kind of our function. They can just table it for them to make a decision and then come back and look at it. But would you like to make any other amendments? That what she stated is a reasonable amendment. And if any others would like to, I mean, first, I think there's a lot of very stringent things in here that I think they're gonna have problems over. But
Did they address it with a moratorium?
excuse me,
Well, they did.
they had the moratorium. This is the result. The moratorium lasts a certain number of days until they have time to address the issue, which is what this law is trying to do. All right, let's call the motion. All in favor of staff recommendations as amended? Certify by saying aye. I'm gonna go aye. All opposed? Motion fails. So I don't know what that means. I guess we don't make a recommendation back to the board at all.
Recommend. So it fails with the recommendation?
It fails in general, I think. Okay, that's where you mean with our changing?
with a change. So does that mean that you recommend denial?
We didn't say to recommend, no, we just didn't recommend your approval, so I.
Oh,
think we can do
of her, I'm sorry, I thought we already voted for what?
that. We did, we already voted on that.
Okay,
So it was as amended. Then if we want to change the motion that was made was to accept staff's recommendations, and we amended those. So now I'm going to change the motion, or make a new motion to say deny the, can we deny local law? You can do that. But I don't know if it's our purview to say they shouldn't have a local law? Or as written, or what? I'm not sure where we're at. But as it stands right now, there would be no recommendation when we make another motion.
well, I want to include her recommendations.
Yeah, we did, but there was denied.
Yeah.
We voted against that with that recommendation. So currently, we've recommended, not recommended, we voted against staff recommendations as amended. So that means, what's that mean?
We had, so what was the total?
And I voted in favor, I think,
Well, I liked the recommendations, but I don't like this at all, so that's where
against it, right?
yeah, I voted against that.
Right. And so did,
It's-
I think Dan voted against it. But anyhow, so because of that, it didn't pass.
Okay,
You need like 7 to pass, maybe 6.
Yes, because it's 11, so we need 7.
Yeah, 6 are good. Yeah. And so we didn't have 6 because we have 2 abstentions. All right, so it's a failed motion. We can make a different motion if you wish, or we can have no action, which I don't like. But
We should have an act.
Yeah.
What happens with no action? It's go to-
if that means no recommendation goes back and forth, and they can act as they feel like.
Yeah, but again, I think that sends a message that there's some apprehension on our part, so, that, you know, whether they take that or.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna take it out.
I mean, well, like you said, they can agree with it and act on it or not, they can go one way or the other. In some cases, it doesn't make any difference.
They can have a super majority override.
Yeah, they can write a recommendation.
Right. I think that generally with the local laws, unless there is a clear and concise negative implication on the county as a whole, we've historically not denied local laws as it is home rule and really a local matter as far as a law with regulations such as these has been, you know, the standpoint, and generally our purpose is to provide that county-wide perspective. If there's large negative environmental impacts or looking at, and I think that that's where Quinn's point would come into play as far as, you know, this is, you know, that this is really in conflict. This local law is in conflict with, you know, overall countywide strategic development planning. So
The only county park is located there.
That's right.
It's the only county park in Cortland. And I mean, I got my own opinions about that and whether we should expend county money to fix the dam. Screw the dam, but illegally.
But I got a question for Trish. Was this run by the county, like the Visitors Bureau or the tourism people? Did your group meet with any of those people, have their comments?
just Department of Health and Soil and Water.
And nobody regarding like housing and this micron stuff we're talking about, all that junk?
There's conflicting opinions when it comes to housing, because some people feel that the rentals take away from full-time housing for individuals that want to move in to be full-time employees of Micron. And then some also feel that the short-term rentals increase tourism, and so there's different perspectives that are also associated to that.
That goes back to the comprehensive plan, where do you wanna be? Where do you wanna be?
A blend,
You-
a mixture, and I think that regulations for short-term rentals are encouraged. regulating them rather than outlawing it altogether, from the planning perspective is encouraged. Um, these are definitely, you know, quite strict regulations and put a lot of onus on the code enforcement officer. Quite honestly, that looks like a huge workload. But it's the disallowance of them in the R1L, the R1L district, you know, moving forward, that I think is a part of these regulations that is, you know, quite strict. And again, we didn't make a recommendation that it needs to be altered because this is a local law that the local municipality is, you know, again, working out. And I think they will have another public hearing in October.
And I would imagine,
Possibly.
well, so, but right now, I don't know what would go back to them if we leave it the way it is at the moment, what happens?
Well, we could send a resolution.
Can we make a recommendation? Is it the part that we're all having a problem with, is the disallowance of them going forward in the future, that total cutoff of the short-term rentals? Is that the problem? Or are you having other objections to it? Because we could make a recommendation that we would only prove it under a recommendation to change that part of the law.
Would that change anybody's vote to positive?
Like allowing for a process, like allowing a process for future short-term rentals to be permitted within the R1L district?
I just think this is very strict. I
I
mean,
agree.
and who's gonna be the one person going around and policing all this and doing all this? And I mean, it's an awful lot on one code enforcer. And I just think that there's no gray at all. And I think, I mean, you're saying the whole thing of Preble, not just one lake or one section. You're restricting going forward, everything. I just think it's you're done. I don't like it at all. That's my opinion. Like Paul said, yeah.
So we made a recommendation to only allow this.
On one certain, you know, the one simple area, I don't know. I don't.
I don't know that these people have Airbnb and such things, it's just gonna be families living there. Maybe they lower the taxes, right?
I don't.
I know I pay terrible taxes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's, other towns must have these sort of laws, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not in the short term. I always thought I should.
There's a lot of it, like, certainly more upscale places like Donner Lake, Lake Tahoe, I mean, they're killing each other. Short-term rental versus there's no housing for anybody to live in.
So, we're how to go forward from here. We should make something back to them.
I agree. I think something
And
should
if
go
you want to
back.
make a recommendation to deny them unless they lose the rate, I mean, I don't know how to say that. Or,
I think there's only four
yeah,
four
or four options we
criteria.
have,
Four
deny,
options.
deny with modifier,
But
recommend with modifications, right?
recommend, you know, approve with recommendations as a general, just regular approve. But even to deny, I believe there's four specific criteria
And they are.
that it has to fall under for the denial. But this is pulling up right now. We can.
Yeah, I'm not sure the board agrees with the denial or myself.
I remember we went through it before.
Mhm.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can figure out what we try to find.
I know.
It was like 4 meetings ago that we talked about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just seems like they're asking a little too much of anybody up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're-
You're right, there has to be a provision before buying. That's cumbersome, that's a convenience.
Are you doing that last one?
Do you want to,
Yeah, but yes.
No, I know, I represent
Tricia, are you trying to find the reason behind the deny?
Yes, should we, while they're looking that up, do we need to make,
Do you want to just table until we get back? Do you want to take some other action right now? Okay, well, we're gonna do, let's move on to looking up the reasons we can deny or not. So we put that on hold until they're done doing that. We'll look for our next item. You said you're all likely. What's next under, what do you want in the city that they're online for or not? Trish, do you want to do the one? You want to line up? For community, it's the last one.
it's the last one. So we will go ahead, and for those that are joining online, we'll skip forward for the Christopher Communities project. And I will let describe that while I start going through the report. Okay, so this was submitted from the city of Cortland. This was an application for subdivision, special use permit, site plan review, and area variances. This is for 172 through 174 and 178 in Homer. And we can just go to like the site plan map. For those that are familiar with the site, it's right next to the, it's that strip mall, basically, that is right next to the Grace Brown house. And so this project is proposing to redevelop the commercial strip mall and that gas station that is directly adjacent to it, right in this location currently, to include 3,100 square feet of that existing strip mall building that's to remain right here. And that would be used for retail and food warehousing. And then, yep. And then with 2 multifamily residential buildings. This is just north of the Wheeler and Homer Ave intersection. And it's within a GB2 district. So the applicant has proposed to demolish that long portion of the existing strip mall and the abandoned gas station and the proposed redevelopment includes the renovations of the existing 31,100 square feet of the strip mall to include retail space for the existing Dollar General, relocate the Cortland reuse store, and 5,000 square feet of food warehousing space for Seven Valleys Health Coalition. Currently is a plan. The project includes one 14,500 square foot 3-story building in the front with office space on the first floor, which is planned to be used by the YWCA, and multifamily residential space on the second and third floors. A second 14,700 square foot 3-story multifamily residential building is proposed right directly behind that, and that's for a total of 61 units altogether. A 3,000 square foot community center is also proposed with a playground adjacent. The community center is planned to contain a fitness center, a cyber cafe, and potentially a leasing office for all the units. The site proposal also includes associated parking, sidewalks, and site work. This is zoned GB2 district and located 500 feet north of that intersection. And multifamily dwellings, retail, and professional offices are permitted in the GB2 district, as shown on table 332 of the code. The subdivision application is in order to consolidate the parcel that the existing gas station is on right now is currently a separate parcel. So in order to do this project, and consider the parcel, the lot size in total, the applicant is proposing to consolidate those two parcels. So section 311B of the code says that 2 or more family dwellings may be permitted on a single lot, provided that the planning commission grants issuance of a special use permit and approved site plan, the site plan. And that the site plan review is required, therefore, and that is what's first sparking the special use. Second dwelling unit on the lot. And then, of course, they have site plan review as well. The special use requirements outlined in Article 16, Section 300, 163 also outline 9 different special use requirements. Most of those requirements are met, except for a few items such as distances between buildings and driveways. The code states that no driveway or parking lot shall be closer than 25 feet to the front of the building or 10 feet to the side or rear of any building. It's therefore recommended that the applicant seek additional area variances from the city for the distances between the proposed building and parking lot. Section 8 states that the parking areas may be located in any yard other than the front yard, but no closer than 20 feet from any property line. Since the proposed parking lot is partially located in the front yard and closer than 20 feet on all 3 other property lines, the applicant has applied for area variances from these parking lot requirements. Article 3, Section 333 defines the lot requirements in the GB2 district. The applicant has indicated that all these requirements will be met. Section 334 defines all the bulk regulations. The maximum lot coverage outlined for residential use in the GB2 district is 60%. The proposed project provides 80.3% lot coverage. Therefore, the applicant has applied for an area variance from lot coverage restrictions. Table 324D also lists the maximum building footprint for a non-residential use in the GB2 district to be 10,000 square feet for principal and 2,000 square feet for accessory. The residential footprint is approved by site plan review. So since the mixed use building that includes the retail is 31,000 square feet, and the community center, which is also accessory, is 3,000 square feet, the applicant has applied for area variances for footprint sizes of the buildings. A grading and erosion control plan includes details of the stormwater management system proposed. The applicant provided the storm water shall be managed on site without impacting the surrounding properties or roads. The connection to the city public and sewer systems, prior review from the Cortland County Health Department, and approval from the City Department of Public Works. Article 8 states that the developments containing more than one use shall provide parking spaces in the amount equal to the total of the requirements of all uses. The applicant has indicated that the total amount of spaces required would be 201, and they're proposing 191. So they have applied for variance for the parking space requirements. Article 7, 383G states that bicycle parking shall be provided with all multifamily and non-residential developments at 10% of the vehicle parking requirements. There have not been bicycle parking or racks provided on the site plan. So it's simply recommended that the applicant provide the bicycle parking according to the regulation. The applicant has provided a landscaping plan with details in compliance with the requirements of the landscaping and screening, section 9. Section 392C3 requires 1 shade tree be planted for every 5 spaces. So for the 191 spaces being provided, this would equate to 40 trees. The applicant provided a substantial amount of shade trees where space allows related to the parking lot. However, they've indicated that this amount does not total the required. Therefore, they have requested an area variance from the shade tree requirements in relation to the parking spaces proposed. Article 9 covers buffer strips and states that a buffer strip 10 feet in width shall be provided upon all non-residentially zoned lots, which abut a residentially zoned lot at the side or rear lot line. And this buffer strip shall be in addition to any other required yardage. As you can see here, the south side of the lot, which is to retain the portion of the strip mall that's to be renovated, doesn't provide for that space. So the applicant has applied for a variance from this restriction as well. They have also provided a landscaping and lighting plan, and it's indicated that all lighting shall adhere to the requirements of the associated code section, and that all lighting from the site will not adversely impact the surrounding residential properties. The applicant has not indicated any signage at this point to be provided for the development. But we noted that, but we did recommend that if they do include signage for the multifamily dwelling units or other commercial spaces, that they adhere to the city's zoning code requirements in section 300.17, which have pretty clear specification for those sign requirements. There was also a large CRC or coordinated review committee held actually in this room, and it was really full. Roy did a really great job at including lots of different stakeholders in the meeting. And multiple different topics were discussed, such as refuse storage. There is a dumpster location near the community center. The applicant indicated that there will be a second dumpster located near the retail building that's not currently shown on the site plan, and both would be properly fenced and screened. Emergency service requirements, the city fire department discussed sprinklers being provided for all the buildings and being proposed, but the community building, they were still determining the necessity of sprinklers within. The fire department also discussed the fact that both residential buildings will have 2 stairwells in each building, and it was requested that if the applicant could consider providing a standpipe in one of the 2 stairwells in each of the residential buildings, which would help with faster
Hose line deployment.
hose line deployment. There you go. Thank you. So the city code enforcement officer, Roy Everett, suggests that the applicant also coordinate with the city to potentially include a sidewalk from the rear of the parcel directly to the Cortland City Smith Elementary School, which is, we can pull up on the map. Yeah, right behind it. The city superintendent of wastewater, Bruce Adams, stated that he had no concerns regarding the city's ability to accept and treat the sanitary sewage to be generated from the proposed project. And the City Department of Public Works indicated that they would review the existing infrastructure and coordinate any upgrades that were necessary with the applicant. The Cortland County, the Soil and Water noted that their records indicated an abandoned fuel tank from the existing gas station that may need to be remediated. So the submitted environmental assessment form in SWIP did not indicate the tank. So we're also adding the recommendation that the city require the applicant to investigate if there's an existing fuel tank on the site and perform appropriate remediation if found. New York State DOT regional permit engineer Jeffrey D actually indicated that this section of Route 11 is not under NISTOP's jurisdiction. It changes to the city's jurisdiction at the municipal boundary, which Chris can point out is actually right there. Yeah. So therefore, the city's site plan review application indicating the necessity of NISTOP firm 33 and firm 32, those permits are not required unless any work extends further north, such as work zone control or anything. Then permitting from NISTOP would be needed. Finally, this proposal is considered an unlisted action under seeker, and the applicant has completed part 1 of a short-term environmental assessment form. Part 2 and 3 would then be by the city to determine if there may be any significant adverse environmental impacts as a result of proposed use. So the staff recommends approval of the application for subdivision, special use permit, site plan review, and area variances only if the following contingencies are satisfied: that the applicant seek an area variance from the city for the distance between the proposed building and parking lots as per 163H4. The applicant provided bicycle parking as per code section 383G. That if the applicant does not include signage for the if the applicant does include signage for the multifamily dwelling units or other commercial spaces, that they adhere to the requirements of 117. That the city require the applicant to investigate if there is an existing fuel tank on the site and perform appropriate remediations in compliance with secret.
Could I have a motion? Paul? Lori? Discussion.
One thing that I forgot to add was snow storage. And I think that that was something, I'm not sure, I could not remember if we discussed in the CRC, but no,
Show.
snow storage.
The plan shows.
On site or remote.
Plan doesn't have it.
We have to
Yeah, one corner shows it.
show them.
One snow storage down here in the corner.
If that would be, if that's acceptable.
Probably not enough for that site, but.
It seems like a lot of parking space, and I wasn't sure if the applicant, would like the applicant to comment on that. Some developments plan on having removal. If you'd like Trevor to comment on that.
Well, let's get the motion, and comment from our board first, then we can
Yep.
talk about.
The CRC meeting you mentioned, you or your office were a part of that as well?
Sure.
Okay. And everybody's on board with the discussion?
Yeah, it's a great, it's a much needed project in the city. We have a housing crisis.
Yeah.
I would think it would also improve the area quite a
Well,
bit.
I have a question. Are they looking to target certain class as far as the housing?
Yes.
Do we know what that is?
Yes, so they are going after, grant funding for this project, with Christopher Communities, for, and actually, if you'd like, Audrey from Christopher Communities could share with you directly. There's specific terminology there. Audrey, if you wanted to speak to that residential income bracket for the grant funding that you're applying for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the funding that we're looking at is specifically for affordable housing. And so in this project, we are looking at two different, we're looking at a special population, as they call it, working with the YWCA to set aside units for victims of domestic violence, similarly to what we have at Grace Brown House. And then the other units will be set aside for individuals between 30% and 60% of area median income. And so, that's, we're looking at serving families. And, a lot of people that fall into that income bracket are, maybe entry-level workers, bus drivers, folks like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Are these going to be 2 or 3 bedroom apartments? I don't remember.
I think when they both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both.
I had a couple of questions from an engineering standpoint. Read a couple of the comments. You said that the stormwater is maintained on site, but it's all being transferred into the existing storm sewer system on Route 11. So is there any stormwater being created on site except around the catch basins? I didn't see a SWIP submitted for this, you're saying? And is the water being attenuated on site or is it being dumped into the storm sewers? The drawings indicate storm sewers.
Do you want me to answer, Tricia?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Trevor.
So the entire site as is existing is paved, which is going to generate substantially more runoff than when we create these green spaces. So with that itself, we're going to be reducing the discharge from what's currently there, which is the DEC standard for extreme flows. In addition, we have a water quality unit that is at the downstream, before the downstream connection, which will hydrodynamically separate any silt or debris, and that will be maintained with a vacuum truck with yearly pump outs.
So what you're telling me then, if I hear it correct, is that you're reducing the overall runoff because you have more green space than was there presently. So that should be sufficient. And then the water quality component is what? There's some kind of a separator or something before it discharges to the state? So
Exactly.
your invert showed that dead flat pipe going across the street. I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but it's existing, I guess. I hope that doesn't back up too much on your site. I guess would be the problem I would have. So, okay. I hope you look.
Yeah, we looked at that, and I think we're going to remove that existing pipe and recore into that at a better slope. So I don't know if the plans that you are seeing have that revision, but our plan is to core into that catch basin with a new pipe.
All right. Well, that's my main problem with the stormwater. I like this project in general. I think it's a great thing for the town, for the city to go ahead with, but just want you to look at that stuff. Anybody else have any comments?
I just want to be clear, actually, we discussed some of these, and the applicant has already provided an updated, plan set, but we did not have it, you know, in time to update the,
All right, I have a question. I see you're drilling there now, taking core samples, is that correct? On site?
Yeah, we are doing a geotechnical report. So they are on site doing some infiltration tests and some borings to assess the geotechnical characteristics of the site where we're going to be putting these buildings. So we had that contracted and completed, and that's also an attachment that's required as part of the HCR funding.
Any other questions? All in favor of staff's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Do we get back to the answers to our questions on the first one?
I think we got it pulled up in both spots here. So I think that these are also the reasons for denial if wished. So there can be an incomplete, which obviously this is not an incomplete situation, which we receive all the information. A local concern is when we return the letter, for the return letter for local determination. Local concern with comments, conditional or denial. So the county finds that the matter is of significant concern under conditional, that the county finds the matter is of significant concern, namely that some aspect of a proposal will have a substantial adverse effect. The county provides conditions that must be met before the request can be granted, which is in general what we do with the recommendation. But with denial, the county feels that the proposal is in direct conflict with county policies, the local master plan, and or surrounding planning principles, and will have an adverse effect on the county. That's when it recommends that the board not grant approval. I think, again, I'd like to reiterate that again. I think that recommendations are really important. And we can emphasize our recommendations, but our review is really from a county-wide perspective. But again, you know, if the board feels that implementation of this regulation would have significant negative county-wide impact, then, you know,
Denial at that point.
that's when you recommend that.
No, that's speculation at this point.
Right.
Whether it's gonna get
Right.
from the standard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, whether that's significant countywide impact, I can't tell you.
Well, no bill back.
Yeah.
I like both of the points put forward here, that it seems contrary to the tourism agenda of the county, but I think there also has to be a path for getting into the program as cumbersome as the town may make it, there has to be some type of path that it just can't be no.
Not allowed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how could it be no?
Well, do we want to make a different recommendation to send back to that board or that town? Regarding, unless they consider, allowing them in the Lake District with some more restrictions or something that it could have adverse effects on the countywide long-term goals? I really don't know. Is that how you would talk? Is that what we're thinking here?
Well, I guess the question is, would you have enough votes to pass it here tonight?
Is what?
Would you
Yes.
have enough votes here? Is there enough votes?
To do what?
Is there enough votes? There's 7 of us that are voting.
If we did, oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay, we all agree.
Right, so that's what all of
You
it.
know, I have to agree on
Well,
whatever
and
motion
admit-
is made.
At a minimum, if I'm putting forth, I would go with staff recommendations if we add, in fact, that, it has to be looked at from an overall perspective of the county's tourism objectives.
Right, so
It's
can I
kind of
make-
what she said, her motion has that, but do you want to,
Can I make? a
is that
motion to
sufficient
do
enough, or do you want to make it that add in that they should, we revisit the disallowing of, short-term rentals in the Lake District? I mean, you follow what I'm saying, do you want to add that to it or not? Would that change enough votes here to pass it?
That the town consider, including,
Our-
including a
our one
process.
district?
There has to be a
Process
process of
A
provincial
process.
floor allowance as committee rules as they want to put in place. I don't know,
And eliminate the denial or any further
Right,
Right.
activities.
Do you want to make that, that could be a motion to say that, include or good enough with her motion to do that? What do you think?
so can we I just want to restate and make sure that so we've got the original, recommendation that the town should consider the effect, implementing these regulations on countywide, tourism and strategic development goals.
Right.
And
So that should
that the-
include,
And then further,
revisit
there has to be,
disallowing the lakefront, that would call R1L district.
there can't be arbitrary disallowal.
And we should, they should include that in their law. It should allow them with some whatever restrictions they want to put on it.
Right? There has to be a path
Yeah.
for approval, even if it's 37 pages.
To consider, including,
I should just consider, I think they should include, it's the way the board,
The-
I'm hearing
the
that
town.
correctly here.
that include, yep, that the town include, a
Path to allowing short-term rentals in the R1L. Is that-
include regulations,
Whatever,
allowing
they
or
could
include
visit that separately if they want to, but I think they should. That's what I'm feeling the board, and then it's. goes
an
there.
avenue, an
An
avenue
avenue to allow
for
short-term
permitting.
rental, permitting it.
Yeah. An avenue for permitting short-term rentals.
In the R1 district.
I don't understand how they can say no unless it becomes a gated community.
Well, they would, there's a law, I think there'd be a lot of lawsuits over if they do. But whatever, that's not our, that's what our feeling of this board, and then we should,
I agree with Quinn, you gotta put the word new in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So the town, the town include an avenue for permitting new short-term rentals in the R1L district. Yeah.
So who would be, if we talk about lawsuits, I mean, could be, who's exposed to that? Is that the county?
Like run over
Exposed to that?
probably just people like property along the lakefront, I would imagine.
The town can pass them a law.
And then the people, if they wanted to do that, have already got.
But it wouldn't fall back on the county, would it?
No, I don't know. No, go for it. But I think you'll have a lot of people get denied for permits that would like to do it. Maybe not. There's nobody. I really don't know. So are we good? Can we take a vote on
What do you
the,
think? You'll
so we
see.
revote this on the amended motion of the All in favor of the amended motion, please by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Don can charge you by the hour to write additional provisions. I'm sure he is anyway.
Where are we on?
All right, well, since Roy's still here, why don't we, do the second, city application?
Which one is that?
Right.
So, so the second city of Cortland, project is, submitted from Chris Timmons for 4 Monroe Heights for site plan review and area variance. It's a 0.28 acre lot. And the applicant is seeking to demolish, it's a pretty blighted residential structure existing. We don't have a street view in there, do we?
Big red X.
Yeah, it's got a big red X on the printer, so, and it's being proposed to be replaced, with a newly constructed 2-family residential structure on the 0.28 acres. It's in an R4, which is a multifamily residential district. And the size of the proposed structure is, indicated to be, pretty much the same exact footprint, as the existing structure. The project meets the majority of the regulation requirements as outlined in the city code. Article 2 residential districts, except for the lot coverage requirements as shown on table 315. The maximum lot coverage for a 2-family residential structure in 60%. The proposed structure will cover 62%, not much more, but therefore it's recommended that the applicant apply for an area variance for the lot coverage. And it's also indicated that there shall be a 4-foot vegetative strip along all required side and rear yards, which a strip or fence may be erected. The proposed structure's driveway will be closer than 4 feet to the property line. Therefore, the applicant is seeking the area variance for the required vegetative strip. And they are also seeking an area variance for the maximum allowed parking, as the regulations require 2 spaces per unit, and so for the 2 units, and I think a little more than 2 or something, but it's
6.
6. Oh, 6.
Roughly 6 spaces is the max.
Okay, and they're proposing 13 spaces, so it would be non-conforming. So they're requesting a variance for the parking requirements as well. This is considered type 2 action under seeker, and so the staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review and area variances. I think that special use permit is, remind that. Typo, scrivener's and under the following conditions, that the applicant apply for an area variance for that lot coverage, and that the city balance the benefit of granting the requested area variances to the applicant, against the detriment of the health, safety, and welfare of the community.
Could I have a motion? Meeting, and a second. Discussion.
So I saw Fran Pasul out in the parking lot. He was exposed to COVID, so he declined coming. He said he's sorry, but he's not coming in. He asked me to say that this went to the city at their last meeting, and it was already approved by the city. So the process of having it demolished and everything is already in the works, because they did not know that it had not come to the county yet.
Let me just answer that. Mr. Timmons wanted to come a lot earlier than this, but there were some meetings that were had because of transition in Kirsten's office. So he wanted to get this work started before the college moved into the neighborhood. So this, I mean, obviously this isn't the norm, it's not supposed to happen, and I try not to have it happen. But in this case, to facilitate some of this work getting done, because it's been such a blighted property, and it is in the college. Movement is this weekend. We facilitated that, okay?
Yeah, no, I just was relaying.
I know, Mr. Project doesn't like that, and I appreciate the fact he doesn't like that. I don't like it either. I just wanted to know that.
And that's also on me, or, and not having
Right, this is improved either way, obviously, it's blighted property, but this isn't really a two-bedroom house, is it?
It's a student rental.
It's a two-unit residential.
Okay,
And our zoning rewrite is coming up with a new comprehensive plan.
but that'd be addressed,
That word, that F word is no longer gonna be in anywhere.
so the city's on top of that.
It's gonna be 2-unit residential, 1-unit residential. The F word, I mean, is family, is not gonna be in that zoning law.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. I see them kind of drawings with this one, not the first one I saw.
Oh,
The
yeah.
comments are about drainage. Is he adding any drywall?
Yeah, that's like,
I see him note, I don't see what he's doing though.
I know it's not there yet, but he's gonna put his up this one, what he gave me, I haven't got the final.
But he's gonna provide something.
Oh, yeah, that all came up in our second meeting.
Okay. Any water coming down on.
No.
Heights.
Drywall, drainage and lighting.
Good, we can get the drywall one high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roy, you're eliminating, the city's eliminating the definition of family, that's what I'm hearing, right?
We are going to, yes, because it's been a contentious forever, and, I mean, I can't say that 100% sure, but I know that I don't put it on anything anymore, because it's such a contentious. Nothing wrong with family, nothing against it, I don't mind.
It's right in regulation.
Yeah.
Any more questions? I mean, it's kind of a moot point. They're already doing
You
it.
can call it anything you want, as long as you have drainage. He's on
So, all of the recommendations,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried.
Sorry, this is fine.
And Roy did tell me that this was happening and they had to move forward with it. It was a really bad site. And we did talk about how the fact that they were demolishing the existing structure was not going to be having a negative countywide impact. And that's part of why we felt like it wasn't really needed to have a special, meeting. Since we couldn't meet on that day, we'll have a special meeting for
One of
this.
these days, when we deny it after we've already done it, we're gonna be in trouble.
No, because I've actually thought of that. They do any work before board approval, that no one's out on it. So,
So we gotta go back to.
Okay, so-
We got sheep and chickens.
I was just gonna say, do we want to let our guests know that they can leave if they want?
Oh, well, you're welcome to stay.
They're having such fun. Why would they wanna leave?
Why would you want to miss the other team? All right, so, let's go back to the town of Homer. Matthew and Joanne Sweeney. On McDonald Road. Go to that map, which is good to give people a frame of reference here on, yep. So, all right, so the applicant is seeking to connect, it's a new pole barn to the dwelling via breezeway. They want to have a small home craft occupation. And the Homer code for agricultural districts, requires a conditional permit if you're proposing a home occupation or a profession in the ag district, which is why this is coming here. So, and each conditional permit application also has to receive site plan review before the conditional permit may be granted. And that's why they're also proposing the site plan. So their site plan indicates a new septic tank be attached to the new structure. And their home occupation also indicates that no more than 25% of the gross floor area of such residence shall be used for the conduct of home occupation. And so the dimensions of the proposed pole barn are not clear. But you can see from the photos, the pole barn is drawn on to the existing house plans. It does not appear to exceed this, but we left the recommendation that the town restrict the gross floor area of the home-based business to be allowed by this section, or they can apply for variance. And so the applicant has provided a part 1 of the environmental assessment form. And so long that the pole barn is less than the 4,000 square feet in gross area, it's considered a type 2 action under seeker. And would not need any further environmental review. So the staff recommends approval of the application for conditional permit and site plan for home occupation if the applicant consults with the county health department on meeting requirements for the installation of the septic tank, and if the town restricts the growth floor area of the home-based business to be allowed by code.
We're gonna have a recommendation.
Me, I'll recommend.
Okay, sir. Second, any discussion? I have one question. Home occupation, do they restrict the type of home occupations or not?
No, no.
I think Greg would know this, that the new state residential code is 15%, but if they haven't updated their things.
What's that now?
I think, Greg, am I correct, the state residential code restricts to 15% of gross floor area for a home occupation?
Building code? No, building code does that.
Residential,
Oh, resident.
but if they haven't done it.
Could be, I don't remember that. Possible.
I don't know where it is, where is it, Homer?
Yeah, you know, like,
Yeah, I don't know.
The thought would be if Homer hasn't
they haven't updated.
updated anything yet.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I can't answer for Homer, so.
We can always ask them.
Anyhow, all in favor of staff's recommendation? Opposed?
I have to recuse.
You recuse?
I recuse.
Okay, you must know something about it. One,
Yeah,
so, no. One and back. Now we can.
Okay, last but not least, in the town of Virgil, on Washington Street, there is a request for conditional permit, as the applicant is looking to house 2 rescue sheep and 7 chickens on the residential property. It's just shy of an acre lot in a neighborhood residential district. And the sheep, the applicant has indicated that the sheep will be enclosed in a movable sheep pen, and the chickens will be kept within an existing structure, and they will have no roosters present on the premises. In the town of Virgil code, uses permitted with a conditional use permit from the planning board includes keeping of livestock in less than 5 acres. That it is permitted with a conditional use permit, and that's where this application is stemming from. And as we all remember, the town of Virgil had a chicken law, local law 5 of 2023, and that regulated, the conditions in which chickens or other fowl could be kept.
No roosters.
No roosters, they don't have a rooster. And the keeping of chickens is permitted in the neighborhood residential district, with the indication that the range of the chickens and the other small poultry has to be limited to the property's owner. So it's just recommended that the town of Virgil ensure that this and all other regulations outlined in that local law be adhered to. It's a type 2 action. And so the staff recommends approval of the conditional permit, so long that the town of Virgil ensure the regulations of that local law are adhered to, and that the town ensure that the applicant also doesn't develop any permanent structures, because that last paragraph does note that the rear of that property, the full rear of that property is in the floodplain, or in the flood, in the floodplain, so that they don't put any permanent, like structures for livestock in the rear of that property. Those are the recommendations.
Could I have a motion? Any comments?
They said that they're,
Just so the board knows, when it goes to the Virgil board for approval, what's it, the board or the zoning board? There'll be a lot of discussion. There's people that are for and against. What makes it a rescue sheep?
I don't know.
I think it's really, really bad.
What makes it rescue? I guess
But
Oh,
on your comments, you're allowed to build in floodplain as long as you look at the regulations. You can't build it anyway. So
you had to mention a floodplain, now Chuck worried about snow.
I'm not worried about it.
There's a good site building up next to the road there.
yeah.
Okay. Can we have a vote? All in favor of motion? Opposed? We're good.
And I think, there was a list attached to the report. There were a lot of determination, items listed in there. Feel free to reach out. Do you have questions on it?
I don't, they're rather tertiary comments.
We can,
And the only question I would have is, some of the bigger ones, such as the Center for the Arts and the hospital, are they anything important or they're just?
hospital, yeah.
They were just, so the the ER entrance, they're just, the ER entrance right there where they have their,
Where camper places and all that stuff?
mass casualty entrance
Yeah.
in there, where people are coming that are exposed to chemicals or something,
Oh, okay.
WMD. It used to run into our stormwater.
Okay.
Now they're putting in, cleanable retention, whatever in there, so that the water goes in there, doesn't go in our stormwater.
So it wasn't a big deal. All right.
We actually started a report for that one.
There
And
wasn't anything major.
it just came for pedestrian because they're kind of redoing the facade a little bit. And we reached out to Soil and Water and they had like 0 comments. Nobody had any
But
comments.
there was no change of their actual site. I mean, not
Right.
building footprint or anything like that.
No, just,
And how about Center for the Arts?
It was like wasn't it a porch off the side of it? I think, and so they just needed a variance for the setback.
Oh, on the main.
Mhm. That's on the side there.
Do we have any questions on the book?
And I think I just wanted to make a note too, I think it would be good for us to discuss as we get later in the year. We're gonna take a look at the referrals again. I want to make note, some of these conditional permits, like for the home occupation, some things related to those. Is there really a countywide, impact?
Yeah.
We can at least discuss that when it comes up.
We're talking about revising to some extent what we don't pass on in here, pass back. Such as the sheep and chickens, those kind of things. All right, anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so motion.
All in favor?
August, yeah, September 18th. September 18th.
Everything is.
I don't know.
That's a nightmare. Be specific.